Welcome to Living Legacy Leadership, where you'll be introduced to insights, tools, and strategies to leverage creative living and giving. I'm your host, Donna Kim Brand, creative brain trainer and legacy strategy coach. I help changemakers and late career professionals who are deciding what's next to develop their thinking, learning, creativity, and collaboration skills, along with leadership mastery for meaningful impact in their next phase of life. The guests and show content I bring to you each week all address some unique aspect of learning, leadership, or legacy. This will help you raise your own game as a leader in business and life, and also showcase some extraordinary people who exemplify living legacy leadership. At least once a month, I also offer training sessions to skill you in game changer thinking for your own application. So get your notebook ready or sharpen up your memory by tuning in your attention, and we'll dive right in. Now, we've landed a bit of a coup today to get a hold of the one and only Eleni Mitzali. And we're going to be looking at making way for such modern empowered women on the move as Eleni. In fact, she was born on the move, born in Chicago, but taken as a toddler, an infant really, to grow up in Greece. Later found her way to England, where she did an architecture degree at Nottingham University. And then I think it was about 3 years ago, you can correct me if I'm wrong, she made the move to New York City to work with a UK-based, or at least UK-originated, startup business. So welcome, Eleni.
Thanks for having me, Donna. Really happy to be here.
Pleasure. Now, would you do us the favor of just giving us a little sentence or two greeting in Greek?
Γεια σας. Χαίρομαι πολύ που είμαι εδώ.
Wow.
I just said thank you. Oh, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
Delighted. Efaristo, that's about what I know. And
There you go.
That's the extent of my Greek. Ouzo, right.
Perfect.
Now, the fact that you've actually grown up in a multicultural household and lived around the world has obviously given you exposure to a lot of different viewpoints, different work ethics, different cultural experiences. What would you say are some of the key learnings that you've had from this upbringing?
So I think I didn't realize it until I actually went to college in Nottingham. So, despite growing up in Greece and going back and forth to the States, it was really when I went to the UK that I met so many people from different backgrounds as well. So over the years, I think one of the biggest things it's taught me is how to communicate. And I actually listened to this talk. I was trying to find who had done it, but I couldn't actually find it. But basically, it was talking about how different cultures communicate. And when I listened to it, I was like, yeah, I feel that that's one of the biggest things that has impacted me throughout my life, is different cultural communications within work, but also personal relationships. And another big thing is I actually never felt stuck to a culture, because I moved around so much. I kind of had to adapt to that environment I was in and the people I was with. And over the years, I felt that's just kind of opened up and become a lot easier. And it's really taught me to just respect other people's culture and respect the space and the environment I'm in.
Mm-hmm. How about the work ethic
overall?
Do you find the work ethic is different in these different cultures?
Yes, I definitely do. I don't think, that any one is better than the other. I think that's where communication kind of comes in, to try and understand another person's work ethic. And, honestly, coming from Greece, high school was super, super hard. I was tutored for the past 2 years, and that's just how everyone kind of knew their high school life. It was all about school, all about working 24/7, and that's kind of stuck with me in a way. But, in other cultures, there's a different way of going about working. People value different things, and I think it's taught me to learn to see those different things, or, if they're not immediately visible, is to try and understand them. So it's really helped the communication in that professional world, and also understanding what motivates people, because I feel that, that's a really different thing. Something that motivated me when I was, growing up and wanted to work hard, isn't the same motivator as someone else. And I feel that that personal motivation that kind of comes from yourself, but also comes from the environment that you're working in, is something at least that I've tried to inspire in a team, and try and find that individual motivation.
Cool. Yeah, that's I think a modern approach to leadership. So it's wonderful that you're able to practice that. Now, speaking of leadership, you made the leap really from university days in England and an internship to a new company, or at least a new branch of a media company that was opening up in New York City. And you said yes and hopped on a plane.
I did.
So, tell us what that was like, being the editor of a startup magazine, which was highly controversial, I dare say, with a very strong point of view. So tell us what it was like, describe as much as you want about the publication, your demographic, and then what the lifestyle was like for you in New York City and that kind of work.
So I'll take a step back and kind of start with the actual, deciding to move to New York and kind of get thrown into that environment. So I knew, having worked with this company beforehand, I, liked the fast pace of it and really liked the immediate impact, seeing that immediate impact that, my work was actually receiving. And so that was kind of the big driver that led me to actually hop on a plane in 24 hours notice and make that move. So I was at Tab Media for 4 years, worked for a few different publications. And like you said, the most kind of notable was our women's vertical, Babe, which was going on for about 2.5 years, maybe. I think it almost got to 3. And, it was a completely new environment. It was a very fast-paced environment compared to what I was used to in architecture, where you spend, an entire year working on one building. The gratification was daily. The impact was daily. And in the beginning, I really, really enjoyed it. And, I still kind of enjoy that environment because of the fact that it was controversial, and we were publishing, we published a few really big stories that got us very, very instant popularity. That no one was prepared for. I wasn't even prepared for that. I like the fast pace, but no one's prepared to blow up and have 5 million people know your website and, talking about it on Twitter. And, these are on SNL, these are big names. So it was, crazy. SNL talked about it twice, and we're just like, oh. So that was, I think, the point that where the struggle began. We were very young, and that was actually the fact that we were young and kind of like in the same age as our audience, and that was what made this publication do so well. But we were dealing with something bigger than we even thought. So I kind of had to realize and rethink my work-life balance, because that publication was my life. I would, be writing stories at 2 a.m. if something broke. I would be messaging with our members, talking to them about various issues that they had. And it was really kind of all-encompassing. And, I went through a few stressful points in my life and kind of had to rethink that and really put myself first, while still keeping my passion for work. Like, I will always have a passion for work. I'll always, never think of a job as a 9 to 5, but I really had to think of that balance And I think especially New York is a hard place, or a special place to do that, because New York is always on. There's always something to do.
Yeah.
There's always something to work on, and actually taking the time to step back and put your health first and your well-being first, I think is a skill. And it's something that I try and share with, my friends who I see first coming in, because coming to New York first out of college, like, you want to do everything. You want to own your own company when you're 25. But, taking a step back and actually, I've learned to be smarter about the way I work and how I approach that work-life balance.
So, that's pretty amazing. And a couple questions about the dynamics in an all-female, I presume, and from what I've looked up, it was an all-female staff. What about the stereotype that females are clawing at each other and very competitive? And that's number one. And then number two, given you are controversial, I imagine some of the posts and blog articles you wrote and so on got some pushback from people. So how did you handle, especially as you said, you were working with the 18 to 24 demographic, and that was the age of your staff. How did you handle the pushback and not take it personally, or did you?
It really depends. I'm not a fan of internet brawls, just because it's never going to go anywhere. You're just sat there commenting. And what we tried to prepare everyone on the team for was, you are writing this controversial opinion, and you do need to prepare for the fact that not everyone's going to agree with it. So we tried to, make sure that people were aware of that and could actually handle any pushback before even publishing a story. And actually, like, a lot of people were fine with it, like, we did, try and have a culture where, we didn't care what people were saying online, and, tried not to look at the comments. But, there were times when we saw people commenting things that were, in a reaction to our story that was just blatantly wrong. And, in that case, we would comment back just to kind of like, we don't want to start things online, but we also don't want people to just like, step all over us if, they are just wrong. And it's not an opinion thing anymore. So, that's kind of how we handled that. And, there really isn't, you can't actually make any impact or, change things in the world if you don't make people a little bit mad. So what was actually really gratifying was seeing the people that agreed with us, who, were made better people. And we're also happy to see that someone is actually expressing an opinion that, they felt, and that made them feel more empowered and more comfortable in, the fact that they are like a strong woman and, can talk about these things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And within the staff, like, I tried not to, like, the majority of our staff was girls. We also did actually have a few male staff members who I think did bring an interesting perspective. So, I'm hard hitting, feminist and, support women. But, I feel like having a male presence and a male kind of like view on things also helps you put things in perspective. Because I think, if we don't have that, then we're never going to have equality. So, I mean, definitely don't think it was like a cat fight between the girls.